Thank you so much for joining us this evening for the virtual public meeting for the Lloyd for You. I'm Mindy Peterson. I assist with communications and public involvement for the project. Since this is a virtual meeting, there are just a few housekeeping issues that we want to take care of before we start our presentation tonight. It will be pretty quick. First of all, we want to let you know that cameras and mics are on only for a handful of our project team members. You'll see those folks to the right of your screen there. We want to make sure that we are preventing any distractions. You are able, though, to interact with the project team. So this is important. All you have to do is use that question and answer function on your screen. You'll see it there in the black bar at the bottom of your screen. So anytime that you have a question, you have a comment, don't hesitate to use that. You can submit a question at any point during the presentation. We do want to let you know that the intent is to take those questions and take those offline for the most part and answer those on a one-to-one basis individually. So we will be doing that. If you do have questions, submit them, comments, submit them. We want to hear from you, but we will be acknowledging those outside of this meeting. Just make sure that we keep everybody on task, that we get you the information you need, and that we get out of here at a decent time for you so you can go and enjoy your evening. So we will have contact information for everybody who is submitting a question. That is attached to the information that you use to register for this meeting, so you don't have to worry about that. We will have your contact information and can reach back out with that response. And with that, we'll get started this evening. So again, we want to say welcome. Thank you very much for taking the time to join us. We did have an in-person meeting earlier this week. Had a great crowd there at City View. Enjoyed talking to some folks about the Lloyd for You. I know we had some people who came to that meeting with some good questions, and I think for the most part, they left with a much better understanding of what's happening with the Lloyd for You and the improvements that are planned. So I certainly hope that is the case again this evening. So we will start with a few introductions here. We have several project team members who are joining us tonight, that we're going to do just a few intros now. First of all, we want to let you know that with INDOT, we have several folks who are joining us. Jared Peterson, Troy Arnold, and Matt Bolick are all joining us. And then we also have Brian Malone, who is the INDOT project manager. So Brian, I'm going to toss things to you and let you say a quick hello to folks.
Okay. Well, first off, I want to thank everyone for attending this virtual meeting. And I really appreciate the fact that you're taking the interest in the Lloyd project. It's going to be a $100 million plus construction project stretching from basically the Warwick County line to the Posey County line. We've got intersection improvements, we have bridge replacement, pedestrian overpass, and some pavement replacement. So there's a lot of info here, and I'm going to let the people a lot smarter than me take it over and let them present it to you. So Mindy, back to you.
Well, I appreciate that. I'm not so sure that I'm in that group, but we will get to the folks who are in that group, so it'll all work out on that end. Do want to let you know that included in that group of very smart people who are going to share some detailed information with you is Jeff Whitaker. He is the consultant project manager. He is with Lockmuller right here in Evansville. Also joining us is Toby Randolph. He is lead designer with Parsons, and you're going to be hearing from both of those folks this evening. So let's start with what to expect from the presentation. What we want to do tonight is really provide a nice overview of what we're talking about when we say the Lloyd for You and what you can expect with this project. Really, it's going to make a big difference in your commute on the Lloyd Expressway, and we know what a key connector that is for the city of Evansville. We last met with the public nearly a year ago. It was in April of last year when we had public meetings, and those were really designed to introduce this project, share some design concepts, and let people have an understanding of what to expect with the Lloyd for You. Since then, the project team has been working to refine those concepts with preliminary designs. So we're going to be talking about that information tonight. We're also going to be talking more about alternative intersections. That's something that we also did at the last meeting. They are important because many of the improvements that you're going to hear more about tonight include those alternative intersections. And again, those should make a big difference in the Lloyd and how it functions for you. Some of the terms that you may be hearing tonight, are going to be new to you, but the concepts are not. So we're going to take the time to give you a better idea of what we're really talking about when we talk about it displaced left or a hybrid solution, and why we think these concepts really are going to serve you well on the Lloyd. And that's going to mean less time sitting in traffic, less time at those lights, and also a safer commute. And we know how important that safety is. Toby and Jeff will be outlining the planned improvement projects and what to expect at each intersection. They're going to walk you right through the corridor. We'll also talk about next steps and how to stay in touch and following what's happening with this project. So let's start with a nice overview of the project. When we're talking about the Lloyd for You, we're talking about it as one project, but it really is several projects that are combined here together. We're talking about more than a dozen improvement projects, and those really are touching the Lloyd throughout Vanderburgh County. So they stretch from one end of the county to the other. We're going all the way from Posey County Line Road to Cross Point Boulevard with these improvements. And these are substantial improvements. NDOT is planning to invest more than $100 million to help make the Lloyd work better for you. That means making it safer, making it more efficient to navigate, improving that traffic flow. And this is an important one. All of that is happening while maintaining access to businesses and homes. And we know there are so many businesses there along the Lloyd, and it's important that you're able to reach those businesses. So we're talking about improvements at several intersections. We're talking about bridge replacements, pavement replacement. That's a big improvement. Anybody who drives the Lloyd knows that. Those are all the things you'll be hearing about tonight. Let's start with a map here that we're going to bring up. There's a lot of information on this map. I will tell you, it's also available on the project website. That's thelloydforyou.com. If you haven't been to the website yet, it's a great resource for information. You're going to find, after we wrap up tonight, a recording of this meeting. You're going to find the presentation itself. You're going to find maps like this one. And all of the maps that Toby and Jeff are going to be referencing, you're going to find those on the website as well. And you can zoom in on those and get a better look at what you're seeing tonight. This map gives you an idea of where you are going to see those improvements and what is planned. You'll see there are 7 major intersection improvements, 4 minor intersection improvements, interchange modifications, bridge replacements, and then that pavement replacement that we talked about. Some of those major improvements are on the far west side of the project. Those are part of phase 2. You'll be hearing more about phase 2 from Jeff. He'll talk about that. And those plans are still in the works. We're still getting to the point where we are today with phase 1. So stay tuned. You'll be hearing more from us on the phase 2 front this fall when we have another public meeting. Let's talk about the big picture. We are here to share preliminary designs. More detailed maps are available now. A lot of good information that we'll be able to share with you. We know that the Lloyd is very important to Evansville, so we have been talking to a lot of those people who are right along the Lloyd, those business owners, stakeholders, folks with the city, to make sure that we're keeping all of those considerations in mind as this project is developed out. We do anticipate those touch points with the public later this year. So we'll be ready for a public hearing for phase 1. That's a little bit different than this meeting tonight. That's when we will kick off a public comment period. We'll have comments at that hearing. You'll be able to sign up to speak. So that will be a big one. You'll have plenty of notice, and you'll know when we're getting ready for that phase 1 public hearing, excuse me. And we also will have a phase 2 public meeting. Already touched on that, and that's when you'll get a little more detail for those phase 2 projects. So what's been happening with the Lloyd? Well, the project team has been hard at work here. Preliminary maintenance of traffic plans are being developed. And what that is really focusing in on is when we have construction underway on these improvements, and there are a lot of improvements, how do we keep that traffic moving? How do we try to take as much of the stress and hassle out of this construction period as possible? So how are we maintaining access and keeping traffic moving the best that we can during construction? So all of that work is underway. The team has also been working on preliminary road design and survey work. I know a lot of people, when you start talking about a project like this, The key question is when? When are you going to do it? When am I going to see dirt being turned, big equipment out there? When is it going to start impacting my commute? We have some time here. The project is expected to let in the fall of 2023, and then construction is expected to begin in spring of 24. So we're just about 2 years away from that. But you know, 2 years, it's snap of the fingers, blink of the eyes, it'll be here before you know it. So we do want to make sure we're reaching out now, sharing that information that you need. And the other big part of this equation is hearing back from you. When we get that feedback from the public, it really helps our team make sure that this project can be as strong as it can be. And so we really do review all of that feedback. It's important to us. You may spark some ideas with the team and maybe provide some thoughts that they haven't had yet. And so we do want that feedback from you tonight. We also want to hit on the purpose of the Lloyd for You. The easy way to say it here is we're making the Lloyd work for you. Traffic doesn't always flow, we know, as you want it to on the Lloyd Expressway. I know there's some frustration there as people sit at traffic lights and some starting and stopping. This project is all about improving safety and mobility while maintaining that accessibility. And Jeff and Toby will both be talking about how we plan to do that. I'm going to be very frank and very honest with you. I said this the other night, and it's just the truth of where we are with this. It's called the Lloyd Expressway. And I know there's frustration because people want it to operate like a true expressway. That's not where we are here. We can't come in and start all over again. And there are a number of businesses that are right there along the Lloyd. And so what we are doing is coming in, taking a really good look at the area. NDOT is making a major investment with $100 million. So what's reasonable? What's feasible? Where can we get the most bang for our buck and make improvements all throughout the Lloyd that will really make a difference? But these are things that are workable and doable. So those are the solutions you'll be hearing about tonight. A big part of that process in finding the solutions is getting innovative. So we're going to talk now about alternative intersections. You can see there, when we talk about alternative intersections, there are some real benefits. There are fewer conflict points. That means improved safety, fewer crashes, keeping that traffic flowing in a better way. You're increasing that efficiency. You're maintaining that access that we've talked about so much. So the way you do that, alternative intersections really are helping you organize traffic in a different way. And so you're still making turn movements that you are today, but we're doing that by organizing things a little bit differently to make those left turns. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that now. Let's get into alternative intersections and what those really are. We'll start with some basics here. When we talk about alternative intersections, as I said, the terminology may be a little bit new to us, but alternative intersections have really been around for decades now. And the very important part of this is they have worked really, really well in many other areas across the nation. And where these alternative intersections have been in place, you have seen improved efficiency, more traffic, more vehicles getting through in the same amount of time. And you have also seen dramatic improvements in safety with a lot fewer crashes. And so these are becoming much more common because they work. And so when you have an improvement that works, that's when you're going to see it in place in many more places. So they're doing exactly what they're supposed to do with improving that traffic flow, the efficiency, and the safety. So when we talk about organizing that traffic, you are still, it's really focusing on the left turns. When you think about making left turns at main intersections, that's where we can see a lot of problems, right? Because if you're making that left, and there's opposing traffic that's moving at a pretty good clip of speed, if there should be an accident there, a crash, we know that that can be a very serious crash because of that opposing traffic. So let's talk about displaced left turns. Let's start there and tell you what we mean when we say this. Left turns are still being made at the main intersection, but you're not doing it as you did before against that opposing traffic. Instead, we're pulling back and we're organizing traffic in advance before you ever get to the main intersection. So there's going to be a traffic signal and there will be a dedicated lane. So if you want to go left, we're going to move you to the left before you ever get to that main intersection. And what that's going to mean when you do get to the main intersection with that traffic signal, it's green time for the traffic that's moving through on the Lloyd, and it's green time for you moving left but your paths are never crossing, and that's a much safer situation, and you're moving a lot of traffic. That also is known as a continuous flow intersection. So that's a name that you may have heard and encountered before. And we'll be hearing more about those as we hear about some of the specific intersections here. Also want to talk about a hybrid solution very quickly. This includes elements of a displaced left turn that we just talked about, but also what's called a boulevard left turn. And a boulevard left is when you actually go through the intersection. You're going to make a U-turn if you want to make that movement. That's going to happen at a traffic signal. So it's a median U-turn with a signal, and then you're making a right turn, that much safer right turn at the main intersection. When we talk about a hybrid solution, it's taking from both of those ideas, taking some from displaced left, taking some of the boulevard left, putting those together for a hybrid solution. And quite honestly, it's done because it makes the most sense at that location. It could be because of proximity to ramps or other roadways, but it's the right solution for there. And we'll be hearing a little bit about where that makes sense for the Lloyd as well. We want to talk about videos a little bit tonight. This was something that for folks who came to the public meeting in person, they were able to check out the videos that we had and some really good simulations. You guys can as well. We just don't want to eat up the time of this presentation by running through the videos, but there are a couple of really good ones. There's a new one that we have up on the website that is a simulation of these displaced left turns, going to show you exactly what to expect. I know it's hard when I'm using the words to visualize exactly what I'm talking about when I'm talking about moving traffic over. So the video is going to help you get there and realize what we're talking about there. And then there's another video, a simulation video that is a hybrid solution that is going to show you how those displaced left and boulevard left concepts can be working together at the intersection. So those are going to be really helpful. Encourage you to check those out. We have one more new video up that's on the website as well. And it's about, 3 minutes. It's really worth listening to. We hear from Mayor Winnicky, who traveled to St. Louis a few years ago. He drove on some of these alternative intersections. He saw them in action. He's a believer. He's excited about the difference that they can make in Evansville and in the commute there on the Lloyd. So we hear from him. We hear from Brent Schmidt, who is the city engineer. We hear from lots of folks who you are seeing their faces. You're going to hear from them shortly. They also talk about these alternative intersections, but it does help to get an idea of the flavor of what we're talking about. Brian, who welcomed you tonight, had a great example of made sense to me, at least. We were talking about it and I'm like, well, Brian, what do you do? How do you explain this to folks who don't understand what these alternative intersections are? And he's like, well, he goes, it's a newer, better way of doing things. He said, I used to have, the old bag phone in the car, and that was the best I had. And he goes, and that's what we used. He goes, that's not the case now. We all have these little computers that we hold in our hands and we walk around and we do everything. He goes, so the old way is not always the best way. There's a better way of moving traffic now. So why are we not doing it? So I thought that was a great way to liken the situation. So I'm stealing your line on that, Brian, since you didn't have a chance to throw it out there. And with that, I'm going to hand things off to Toby. He's going to start on the east side with improvements there and kind of walk you through what you can expect.
Yeah, thank you. So east side improvements, basically anything east of US 41. And we have 4 intersection improvements going on here. 1 minor one at VANN, and then 3 major ones at Stockwell, BURKHARDT, and Cross Point. And as you all know, this is a commercial corridor for sure. Some residential on the south side, but mainly commercial. And so we have a challenge of maintaining access and trying to get people in and out of these commercial properties as efficient as we can. But the safety concern here, and that is evident in the crashes that we have, is the rear end crashes. And so I'll get in a little bit more detail of that with VANN. So the first one I'll tackle is VANN Avenue. So VANN is, as you know, is kind of the low point as you come up over the hill of Bakey. And eastbound has a lot of the rear end crashes and a lot of even fatalities here. And so this intersection, we are going to remove the signal. People say we're adding signals, but this one we're definitely going to take out the signal and close off the median with a barrier wall, and so that you can't do left turns or through movements across the Lloyd. And this will basically be VANN will be right in or right outs coming in at this intersection. And so they'll have a free flowing movement for that eastbound coming up over the hill, and should eliminate most of the rear end crashes that they have. And the reason of the rear end crashes are there's a sight distance is very short for this corridor coming over Bakey. We will maintain pedestrian crossings, at least on VANN. You can see my cursor. The pedestrian bridge, the new pedestrian bridge that's over VANN, will take you over the Lloyd, but we will not allow the crossing of Lloyd at grade any longer, which today the crosswalk has been removed anyway. But that will continue in the future, and that's why we'll get pedestrians through here. That is VANN. Our first major intersection is Stockwell Road. Mindy kind of described what a hybrid solution is, and this Stockwell is our first intersection that has a hybrid solution. So what that means is we have a combination of a displaced left intersection and a boulevard left intersection. The reason being, if we try to put in a full displaced left on the east side of the intersection here, we have the Green River Road entrance and exit ramps. And it's the entrance ramps that are the problem for westbound, that we cannot get them over to do a left turn at Stockwell with a displaced left intersection. So what we have to do also, it does, if we try to do the displaced left on the east side, it also affects John Street, and we have to relocate some so John Street on the south side. So to avoid that impact and to get the proper spacing we need for the left turns, we've created westbound as a boulevard left. And as Mindy described, your boulevard left, if you're going to go left on Stockwell, you're going to go through the intersection to your own designated left turn with a signal that operates with the other left turns. And you do a U-turn, and then you come back and do a right. So that's how your left turn will go for your westbound. Eastbound, as a displaced left, as Mindy described, you'll get over left before you get to the main intersection. You'll have your own signal. You will cross over, and then once you get to the main signal, you'll operate your lefts at the same time both the throughs go. So that's where we add green time and save more time on the phasing of an intersection, is because the left turns and throughs go at the same time. The other aspect of this intersection is a right turn slip lane, is what we call it. So southbound Stockwell to westbound will have its own right turn lane. It takes it out of the main intersection and brings it down here to the left turn signal, and can also operate on a flashing arrow, or we haven't fully determined if it's a right turn on red yet or not, but they will have the option here of moving on down from the intersection and saving time that way too. So that's our hybrid solution. When we move to BURKHARDT, we have more room. We have the room to put in the fully displaced left intersection. So to kind of describe this, you have a lot of peak hour delays. You have traffic backing up on BURKHARDT. And, obviously during the Christmas season, those things like that, there's a lot of traffic going in and out, access points along this corridor. So the displaced left fits nicely. The left turns, like I described, are both directions, westbound and eastbound, 2-lane left turns, so they hold a lot of capacity. Both northbound and southbound have the right turn bypass lanes as well, single lanes. So as I described earlier with Stockwell, this saves up to a minute of phasing, because of these left turns, and these left turns get to go with the through movements. So don't think of this as 3 separate signals. They are one basically combined signal working together. As if you're stopped here at this left turn, then you should get the green to go here, and we're not trying to stop you twice. So that's not the goal, is to add a signal and make you stop twice. These will all work together and flow just like I described. So at Crosspoint, we also are able to fit in a full displaced left intersection. Very similar, area as BURKHARDT. Obviously, it's just east of there. It does have a little bit more challenges here because of I-69. So Eastbound works fine with the left turns and displacing them west of the intersection, but westbound is a little too close to the existing on-ramp or exit ramp from I-69. So we can't, like Green River Road, we could not get traffic over into this left turn, and they would not be able to access South Point or Cross Point on the south side. So what we need to do is modify this ramp, bring it into a T intersection so that it can turn right and come and have the availability to get into this left turn lane. Because of the traffic is not as heavy as the other direction, the left turn lane is proposed as a single left turn lane here on this displaced left. On the eastbound movement, we do need to relocate this ramp as well, the on-ramp, because again, the distance from this right turn lane to here, we're trying to make that wider so it works better in the weaving and flow, etc. This is not signalized, eastbound is not signalized or anything. So this is about a 20-second cycle. We have dual left turns, so it can hold a lot of capacity to get them out and allow the right turn on red as well. This intersection also has the right turn slip lanes from the northbound and southbound. The northbound is longer. We've dedicated it. As you all know, during a peak hour, this right turn backs up and we get traffic back here down on Cross Point. So we're going to bring this right turn lane all the way around the corner for storage. And so that will hopefully eliminate some of the backup for the through and rights that are at the current intersection. So I believe that's it for my east side improvements, and I'll allow Jeff to describe the west side improvements to you.
Thanks, Toby. There again, Toby's talking about the east side improvements. Now let's just jump 4.5 miles to the west and talk about the west side improvements. Here again, the west side improvements start from Rosenberger Avenue to Wabash Avenue. It's about 2.1 miles between the 2 points intersections there. Here again, the Lloyd Expressway is pretty unique, and that, you know, as you're driving from one part of the county to the other part of the county, you have different types of typical sections. Or as you drive down through there, I mean, the east side doesn't look like anything like on the downtown section, and the downtown section doesn't look like anything at St. Joe or Barker or even Rosenberger out further west. So the Lloyd Expressway is made up of different typical sections as you run down through there. Here on the west side, there are numerous access points. There again, some are major, like the major intersections of Barker and Rosenberger, but there are some minor intersections that we're also looking at as well and trying to eliminate some of those points, and I'll get to that here in a minute. Maintenance traffic is a challenge. Here on the west side, we're completely removing all the pavement down through here, so we have to make sure that construction and vehicle traffic are moving together and safely in a safe manner. There again, this area is very tight and requires an additional lot of survey and a really hard look at design work, trying to fit any improvements that we're doing in a very narrow corridor. So if we go to the next slide. There it is. Okay, so here again, I kind of talked about this a little bit. There again, we're starting at Rosenberger and going all the way to the west side. We're reconstructing the whole pavement, removing that old pavement. This project was built back in the 1960s, so the pavement has kind of outlived its life and usefulness here now. So we're going to rip that out and put in some new pavement. Currently, there are 4 lanes of traffic out there, 2 in each direction from Rosenberger up to about Barker Avenue. Can you guys see my cursor running around here? And so from Barker Avenue to Wabash Avenue is 6 lanes of traffic. And so as part of this project, we're going to go ahead and add 2 more lanes, one in each direction, all the way from Barker Avenue up to Rosenberger Avenue as part of this project and improvements. So the next slide kind of shows us, we're going to start with these intersection improvement projects, and we're going to run from Rosenberger to the east all the way over to Wabash Avenue. Here on the side, you can kind of see some of the restrictions and minor improvements that we're doing, some of the considerations we're looking at. Here at the intersection of Rosenberger, we're going to extend the left turn lane right now and widen it out. Same thing on the other side. We're going to go ahead and widen that and lengthen that lane out on the east side of the project. On the north side, we're going to tie back into Rosenberger at a certain distance to tie in the new pavement section. And on the south side, kind of do the same thing there. These typical sections are not going to change that much in this area. The one thing we are doing is lengthening the right turn lane up there. So on Barker Avenue, here again at this intersection at IGLEHEART, we're really going to kind of change this configuration just a little bit to improve safety. As everybody knows that travels this area, if you're headed westbound, the outside lane kind of flows into CORBIERRE down through there as an exit as you go down to Teacup Avenue. So there is some conflict with this other ramp that comes off IGLEHEART Avenue and then entering into the Lloyd Expressway. So part of this reconfigure of this intersection, we're going to remove the loop here that comes around and exits onto Barker Avenue and then goes southbound. We're going to remove that loop and then put all that traffic over here on the other side where this ramp is. And as you come up and exit off this ramp, there again, you will form two lanes of traffic up here. One lane will be a through right shared lane, and the other lane will be a left turning maneuver here. There again, taking this traffic off this loop and moving over here to this ramp as well. On the south side, what we're looking here on the west-southwest corner of this interchange is kind of just replacing that ramp as it is. If we go to the next slide, we're kind of looking at that improving here. Again, we're on that southwest loop ramp here. Here again, we're kind of improving this angle as you come off and exit off the Lloyd onto that ramp, giving better drivability. Right now, it's kind of a quick off-ramp exit. So let's go back up here to IGLEHEART and kind of look at this and see what else we're doing up here as it comes down to CORBIERRE Avenue. Here again, we're going, as you exit off IGLEHEART, you'll now be able to come down, and we've actually moved the access that you would exit off onto CORBIERRE down to South Teacup down past Ingle Street here, thereby giving room for maneuverability and merge length for the people coming off of the ramp onto the Lloyd, and from Lloyd, people coming onto CORBIERRE Avenue. Here again, this should really improve the safety as people come on and off of Lloyd Expressway at this location. CORBIERRE will be completely rebuilt down through here as well. New pavement, new curb and gutter, new sidewalks, and all new drainage. So the next intersection we come to the east here is St. Joe Avenue. St. Joe Avenue, that we're going to replace the existing signal that's out there. We're going to lengthen the west side left turn lanes and also the east leg turn lanes. Here again, we're just going to do some minor improvements to this intersection. On the north leg of St. Joe Avenue up there, the dual left turn lane that's going southbound that enters onto the Lloyd Expressway, we're going to lengthen that back out so we can have more storage in this area. Also, we're going to go ahead and add an additional right turn lane. By adding this right turn lane, we improve the cycle length of this signal and gives us more time in other directions. There again, just improving this intersection with slight improvements to improve the safety at this intersection. At Wabash Avenue, here again, we're kind of looking at replacing the signal. And on the west leg, we've got this extended left turn lane to keep from the left and the through movements from conflicting with each other. On the east leg, there's not too much that we can do in this area just because of the existing MSC wall that comes down both sides of the road here. And then there's the bridge over here at 9th Street, not too far the road. Here again, we've been talking about replacing these signal here and at on Wabash and at St. Joe Avenue and at Rosenberger. As part of our traffic analysis, we really looked at, well, what happens just not at this intersection, but how does that affect the whole corridor down through there? So we put our information into a traffic model, basically, and that model runs through different cycles, and you can actually go in here and adjust these traffic signals to work and talk to each other and function as one corridor project instead of just looking at each individual intersection. So that should really help move traffic through the corridor. We also talked about bridges being replaced. Here again in this project, we've got 3 bridges over certain items or certain things, and then we have 1 pedestrian bridge. We've got 1 bridge over Carpenter Creek, CSX Railroad, and Teacup Avenue. Here again, those 3 bridges are right there in a row. And then the pedestrian bridge is down there towards St. Joe Avenue. That's going to be replaced as well. A part of improving safety out there is at the CSX Railroad, we have to raise that bridge up to really get the clearance we need to meet new standards for the railroad track. And as we do that, we're going to kind of shave that hill off so you can get better sight distance as you come up and over that hill going eastbound and westbound as well. I had mentioned something earlier about trying to look at some of these minor access points down through this corridor. You know, we've kind of looked at the major ones with St. Joe and Wabash and Rosenberger. So we're also looked at some of the other minor intersections. And of course, anytime you have an access point, there's always a chance for a collision, a rear end collision, or a side swipe. So the least access points you have, the least accidents you should have along the corridor. Here again, this is kind of a unique situation again on this side of town where we have a lot of additional minor accesses. So we actually did a survey through the website, and the survey came back very positive. It's trying to get rid of some of these. A lot of people understood the reasoning why. Some didn't like it, but they understood that, you know, the less access points we have, the safer the corridor will be. So right now, what we're looking at on the left side, starting there, and moving to the right, we've got South Ingle Avenue on the south side over there. And then if you move to the right, the next one comes up as Limke Avenue, just west of Ray Becker there. And then North 12th Street, which is just east of Ray Becker and St. Joe Avenue on the north side. And then there's a little section of Pennsylvania Street that runs parallel with the Lloyd Expressway just right off Wabash. So we're going to close that off as well. That's a little one-way street, and most people don't even know that it's even there. So that's a good point to be able to close off and not worry with as well. One of the access points we are leaving open is on 10th Street on the north side. We've talked to some of the local businesses, and that is really a crucial intersection for to have them have deliveries in. So we are going to leave that. On the south side, in between St. Joe and Wabash Avenue, we did talk to George Cook and Sons down there. They've got a couple of driveways that access onto Lloyd Expressway, and we had a meeting with them, and they understood what we were talking about as far as access and safety, and so they are allowing us to go ahead and close those off as well. So, and then on the north side, there's a couple drives down through there that we are closing as well. So we're getting good feedback from the property owners and adjacent property owners to help improve these safety improvements as well. The next thing I would like to kind of look at is the, there we go. So the next thing that had many, so that kind of wraps up phase one. We talked about the west side projects and the east side projects. Now I'll talk a little about phase two projects on the Lower Expressway. Here again, we're starting at the county line and then running to Rosenberger Avenue. Here again, that is total pavement replacement. So there again, this section was built back in the 1960s. So the pavement getting worn and torn. So it's time to go ahead and replace that pavement. And we will also be looking at the different intersections coming up. Barry, I can't move. There you go, thanks. So all the other intersections in that area are Down Road, Shooty Road, Felstead, Belmont, Vernon, Baby Camp, Red Bank Road, all the intersections. We're actually looking at all those intersections down through there to see what kind of safety improvements we can do at these intersections as well. Some might be major and some will be minor. We should finish up our traffic analysis here in the next month and really start our design work. So as we get the traffic analysis and some of the design work, we'll be updating the website to let people know exactly what is coming your way. There is, again, as Mindy said earlier, we should have another kind of information meeting like this and the one we had earlier in person this week to talk more about the projects in the fall for this phase two section. And with that, I think Mindy's going to talk about the next steps.
Yeah, I'm going to wrap us up here with next steps. We gave you a lot of information. Do want to briefly talk about right-of-way. I know that's a question that people always have when we're talking about these major construction projects. We do want to let you know, while we only have preliminary designs at this point, we can tell you there are no relocations, zero relocations associated with the Lloyd for You improvements. Only some strips of permanent right-of-way here. Most of the right-of-way needed for the project is only temporary right-of-way. If you are close to some of these improvement areas, and if you have specific questions, use that Q&A function to send those questions to us. We'll get you some answers. We'll connect you with folks that you're able to talk to. When we had the in-person meeting this week, we were able to sit down with corridor plans and show people lines on maps and answer questions that way. We're not afforded that luxury tonight, but do take advantage of that Q&A function there to ask us any questions you have regarding right-of-way. Next steps, in addition to tonight's meeting, of course, we had that in-person meeting that we talked about. So we're asking for your comments and feedback. The project team really does take a look at those in a very serious way. And we want to know, is there something we have not considered yet, something else that should be on the table? So we'll take that information, react to it. The project team is also completing preliminary designs, completing the environmental assessment. We already mentioned those public touch points that we'll have this fall. We want to show you this phase one timeline. We do have two phases here that you've heard about for the Lloyd for You. Phase one extending from Rosenberger to Cross Point. We will complete that preliminary design work and environmental assessment and advance to that public hearing. We'll share that information this fall. Phase two then extends from Posey County Line Road to Rosenberger. When you see that next timeline, basically that's the far west side of the project. Everything is following just a little bit behind on that phase. The team is finalizing the preliminary designs. We'll present those this fall, and then you can expect a public hearing in the spring. So we've talked about two phases. This is being let as one project, and that's going to allow some improved coordination. We also anticipate some efficiencies during construction. So again, letting as one project in the fall of 23, Construction expected to begin in spring of 24. So we've shared a lot of information. There is still a lot to come. So how do you stay on top of what's happening? It's pretty easy to follow our progress. There's some information up here as far as the website, social media. If you are a Facebook, Twitter user, follow us if you're not already. There is a lot of good information. In addition to the videos I already talked about tonight, we have some very short ones, 60 seconds, 90 seconds with some project team members. They're a great glimpse into what we're doing, how you can get a better understanding of the projects. You'll see the maps, the timelines, all of that good information is available for you there. If you do have questions or comments, again, I encourage you to use that question and answer function that's available in the chat. Anything that's not a real quick response, anything that's more detailed, we will use your email and get back in touch with you regarding that information. We're also going to keep that Q&A function up for about 5 minutes after the meeting wraps. We're getting close to that wrapping point. We'll keep that open and live just for about 5 minutes because sometimes those questions come a little later. And then we want to go one more slide forward and show you that I know not all questions may come to you tonight. So these are our contact channels. Those are also available on our website. INDOT for You is a great mechanism for those questions, inquiries that we might get. Great tracking there. They're going to make sure you get a response. Those go to INDOT for You, come right to the project team so that we can get you the answers that you need. And I know we said we're going to keep most of those questions for offline discussions on the specifics and send information. But I did want to throw it open very quickly before we wrap up. Toby, Jeff, I thought it would be worth letting you weigh in. Eddie had some questions, specific questions about why can't we do what we're seeing up north? Why can't we have the interchanges? Why can't we have the overpasses? And he mentioned specifically Fort Wayne, Fishers, that sort of thing. I know we're making a serious investment here and we're working with some real constraints on the Lloyd. So just wanted you guys to have a chance to hit on that because I know we are hearing from folks who are saying, why can't you do this? Why can't you elevate the entire thing? So do you guys want to talk a little bit about what's feasible and how we're trying to do the most that we can here with the Lloyd?
Okay, so I'll go ahead and weigh in, and Toby, if you want to add to what I have to say, that'd be great. There again, these alternative intersections, especially on the east side that we're talking about, this is the next step from our regular just, intersection that everybody's used to with left turns and everything like that. So this is the next step to improve that intersection. Here again, we're talking about a $6 million investment probably just for the construction of these improvements to these intersections. If you're looking at a interchange, right now you're probably looking at somewhere between $30 and $35 million for just one additional intersection or interchange. So there's a big cost difference there. There again, you can do several of these improvements versus just one improvement at one location. So with that being said, you also got to think about what's outside the footprint of the road too, how you affect the property and how much right of way you would have to purchase and how you would put out people that are adjacent to the property as well, or adjacent to the Lloyd. So Toby, you got anything really to add to that?
Yeah, not really. Just except that the commercial property that is right up against the roadway and some residential apartment complexes and things like that would be impacted along this corridor, and so that's kind of the main reason is the impact in that and messing with the accesses along the Lloyd and the cost of them.
So that's a short answer. I know, but it's an important one. So it's touching on the things that they have said. Whole lot of businesses there, and you're talking about, we told you, 0 relocations to talking about many relocations, many impacts, and also just the sheer cost. You're talking about touching the entire corridor with $100 million as opposed to just making one improvement here or there because of the high dollars attached to that. So wanted to touch on that, and also saw several comments from Ronald as well. Wanted to let you know that we saw those specifically, Ronald. We'll get with you offline because there are some real specifics there about some specific closures. He was talking about Fielding, he was talking about Stockwell. So we'll let those responses come to you offline so that we can respond to those. Eddie, I saw you had some additional questions as well, and we have your contact information, so we'll get in touch with you. And Eddie is a big fan of the 2 additional lanes on the west side. He'd like for you to take him to Baney Camp. So we have that recommendation, and we will follow up on that. And other than that, I just want to thank everybody for joining us this evening. I do appreciate the time. Hope you got some answers. The website, again, theloyd4u.com, will have all of these meeting materials, the presentation. We have a handout that was available at the meeting, those videos as well. So that's a great resource for you. And we'll tell you to have a good evening, and we will keep this link open for about 5 minutes for any questions, and we will supply the answers at a later date. So thank you so much, and have a good evening. I'm going to pop back on here just for a minute as we're wrapping up, a little additional time for Q&A. In case we still do have David on, he had a very quick question asking about timing for phase 2. And he wanted to know, when is the beginning of phase 2? Phase 2 is already underway. So both of those phases are underway. We're just not quite as far along in some of that design work. And so those preliminary designs will be presented this fall at a public meeting. And then the projects are coming together at letting. Both phases will let as one project in the fall of 23, with construction expected to begin in the spring of 24. So I hope that answers your question. And also wanted to tell Edward, thank you very much. He wanted to thank people for the information and thought that he was able to gather a lot from the information shared tonight. So appreciate you joining us, Edward. We had one more question about the west side, specifically McDowell Road. McDowell Road is one of the intersections that you'll be hearing about in the fall. So that is the timing for that. So you will have that information at the fall public meeting. We clearly are not there yet in the planning stages, but I would anticipate something very similar to what we had this time around, which is an in-person opportunity. And we'll likely pair that with a virtual meeting as well, so that we can try to get information to as many folks who need it. So the timing will be fall. And if you do not receive project updates, you can sign up for those on the website at the Lloyd for You, and you'll always get notification of those meetings well in advance, so you can plan to attend. So I hope that helps you out with an answer on that one. Okay, with that, we are leaving right here the contact information up here for Lloyd, for NDOT for You. Thank you, Barry. NDOT for You information is up there, and that is your spot to send any additional questions that are coming outside of this meeting. We will be responding to those questions and comments that we received during the meeting tonight. Several of those that we're taking offline, answered those quick ones that we were able to give you a quick answer to this evening. And with that, we're going to say thank you very much for joining us, and have a good evening.